Hi folks, and welcome to Aches and Games, a relaxed monthly check-in between two slightly older British gamers talking gaming, life, and whatever other nonsense comes to mind. We're not quite sure how it's November already, but we've got a great show for you nonetheless, taking you through the thorny issue of gaming difficulty. Plus, we'll give our thoughts on Dead Space, which was October's terrifying game of the month. We'll reveal November's game, and we'll share with you what we've been up to, playing, watching, and all that jazz. Before we dive in, don't forget, between episodes, you can find us on all good social media platforms and some rubbish ones too. We're at Aches and Games on those, or search Aches and Games to find our Facebook page, or email us at achesandgamespod@gmail.com. I'm Giles Nicholson. I'm Giles West on most things, socials, Xbox, etc. And joining me as always is my good friend James Apes. James, you look a bit different this month.
I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, it is technically Halloween when we're recording this, but I'm not wearing my bat hat and my cape because it's Halloween. It's just what I normally wear on a Thursday, so definitely not here. Nothing to see here. All good. Yeah, my name's James. I've been doing this podcast for a year, as we'll talk about later. But for now, I'm on social media as You Have to Laugh with the number 2 of my barely accessed or kept up with old social media accounts. My parenting blog, also at Aches and Games. Obviously, as Giles already mentioned, I do the Facebook and what else do I do? Instagram and TikTok now, which we'll talk about later on as well. Ooh. TikTok's great. Really blowing up on TikTok. Very exciting. I'm also on PlayStation as Jamesy Boy 1978 and on Xbox as James Boy 78 and those 4 digits I should write down one day, but I still haven't, so I'm on there somewhere so I can play Fortnite with Joshua. And that's me. Also, as Giles got completely right first time last week, or last month, or last year, whenever it was, we also have a website, www.achesandgames.co.uk, because it's a company in the UK. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Giles.
Well, evening, mate. Well, I mean, what you might have noticed is I didn't even try it this month because I thought I'd probably screw it up again. But yeah, if you're a listener to the audio version, we will pop a clip up or something of James in his wonderful attire. I am dressed as myself today in a shocking twist of events, but we're also in slightly different settings, aren't we, James? You're coming from a different location, different acoustics, and likewise with me. So bear with us if it sounds a bit different this episode, folks. And I'm sure we'll talk about that because relocation is probably part of what we've been up to. But on a more exciting note, what have you been up to this month, James?
Yeah, weirdly, just looking at the camera, it looks a bit like Boy George from the 80s in terms of outfit. I needed some more makeup probably, but I didn't realise it looked quite so Boy Georgie. There we go. Anyway, lovely. Yeah, so October's been an interesting month. Obviously, it's culminating with the excitement of Halloween. So Joshua and Sarah are currently out doing trick-or-treaty stuff. And in the olden days, our house and our road, no children ever used to come by for trick-or-treating when we first moved here for the first 6 or 7 years. But now, for the last 2 or 3 years, as indicated by my Ring doorbell notifications every couple of minutes, people keep coming to our door to steal our sweets. So my mum is on door duty at the moment, bless her, with a box of rapidly dwindling sweets. So hopefully at some stage she doesn't burst in the middle of the podcast to say that we ran out of sweets and panic and then all that stuff. So that's Halloween at the moment.
Absolutely, yeah. The rest of the family dressed it. I've just realised if Joshua and Sarah are trick or treating, and your mum's greeting people at the door, what outfits have we got in store for us across the family?
Joshua's a Grim Reaper, as he was last year. So it's a little face mask. He's got a nice blue and black outfit with some chains across it. So yeah, it's a bold look. Again, quite 80s in appearance. Sarah's wearing nothing. Yeah, indeed, from the olden days. Sarah's wearing nothing at all, or nothing Halloweeny at all. She's wearing some clothes. She's not naked Halloween is not a thing in Tylist. And my mum is wearing her normal clothes as well because she was just trying to avoid it completely and has now been dragged into it because I'm doing a podcast and people keep knocking at the door, or ringing at the door, rather. But there we go. So, yeah, I said October culminated in Halloween, but it's been an interesting month. It's been okay. We've had half term, so we're currently in the middle of half term still at the moment. It's kind of clash of Halloween this year, which is fun. And we went away for a couple of days to a place in the New Forest called Ringwood, which I'm sure most people have probably heard of, but maybe you haven't, who knows. So we stayed in the Premier Inn. We always, every half term, try and spend a night or two in something salubrious like a Premier Inn or a travel lodge. Premier Inn was a posture of the two this time. And I had a breakfast. Very nice. So we had a good time there. We had some walks. We saw some horses, but didn't touch them, obviously, because it's the New Forest. Didn't really touch and feed horses in the New Forest. Very bad. And we also met with a retired friend from work. He retired literally a week and a half ago. I've worked with him for about 15 years and never once been to his house. But within a week of him retiring, we went down there and went to his house and went out for dinner. That was very pleasant. And he paid for it as well, which is even better. So I'll definitely be going back down there again for the free dinners, which is very pleasant indeed. So it's nice. It's nice to be away. And as you can probably imagine, and as you kind of alluded to earlier, I'm in a half new location this month for recording the podcast. Podcast? What's a podcast? Blimey. Whole new genre. I'm in my mum's new kitchen this month, which is very exciting. If you get excited by kitchens, obviously. So I'm in here at the moment. It's not functional yet because as yet the drainage isn't attached. As I mentioned last month, we can turn on the taps, we can fill up the sink, and then the water just falls on the floor instead of going out into the sewers like normal people do. So again, it's still very much oldie days at the moment, but the exciting news is they fixed the roof issues, which I probably talked about last month and the month before and the month before that. So now we have a vaguely flat roof that doesn't leak. Happy days. We're just waiting for the scaffolding to be taken down early next week, and then the plumber can come back and fit all the drainage stuff. So hopefully, week commencing the 11th, my mum's kitchen will be usable because it will have working stuff and the water will go somewhere. So she can move in here, have a bit more space. So it'd be my first and last time recording a podcast in my mum's new kitchen, because this time next month she'll be in it making dinner and other things that people do in kitchens, probably. So that's the bulk of my stuff, Joe. The week away and the decorating and the constant excitement of chatting to the builders, trying to figure out how to fix a roof that doesn't want to be fixed. But we've made it. So we're almost there. And hopefully next month I can give you all the exciting news. It's pretty much finished, apart from our ensuite and bathroom, which I will talk a bit more about in a minute. What have you been up to, G? And I'll come back to me in a sec.
Yeah, well, fantastic news. And it's I can't imagine. And we had about 2 months, maybe 10 weeks of work in our house earlier in the year, listeners may remember. And it was exhausting. So what you guys have gone through is huge. And yes, looking forward to getting that resolved for you. We've had quite a fun month. Hannah's ongoing sort of 2 months of birthdays continues, which is really fun. We had a kind of family birthday party thing. So she's got a niece and nephew who are a little bit younger. And so we were trying to come up with something that would be fun for everyone, hopefully. So we did a kind of retro kind of kids style party, but for the whole family, with some different games. So some sort of kids classics, like sort of Pin the Tail on the Donkey, but on brand for this podcast. We had to pin the controller, or pin the D-pad on the controller. So that was quite fun. And lots of other sort of kids-based stuff, and then some sort of more grown-up stuff like Pictionary and things like that to balance it out. So yeah, it was really fun. Got together, dinner with friends and family. Plus, it was our anniversary, so we had a nice dinner there as well. Went off to the Woodsbean in Newbury, or near Woodbury. In Woodbury, Newbury, even.
All the way from Woodbury.
Yeah, where is Woodbury? I don't even know.
It's existing.
It sounds like that might have been in Woodsboro. That was Scream, wasn't it? Again, very topical. And we went to a comedy night in a local cellar. Like a commercial one rather than just someone's cellar, with the Brimbles, which was really fun as well. So apart from that, mostly been trying not to buy a MetaQuest headset, getting very tempted. I might give you an update on that perhaps next month, because I don't suspect I'll manage to resist, if I'm honest. You said you had a few more things to cover, Joe.
Yeah, I was going to say, what's the point in having temptation if you don't succumb to it? So the whole point of temptation isn't to succumb at some stage after a bit of a battle. I was talking to Craig the other day, by the way, and he mentioned that you happened to be in the very front row of the very tiny theatre for the comedy, and that therefore it's quite an intense experience.
Yeah, I was. That's a very good level of detail, because I was genuinely terrified. I think we all were when we sat down, and then we were talking about how we'd be picked on, and hoping to somehow look inconspicuous despite being like 2 feet away from the comedian. And literally the first thing, he went straight to Craig and asked him some questions. And you just have to go along with it, don't you? One person vaguely near the front did decide to try and kind of it wasn't heckling, but he was trying to be funny himself, and that was obviously a huge mistake. So we just sat there and took it like a champ, and it was really fun, actually, really fun night. So yes, I wouldn't choose that seat, but given the seats available, it was the best option. I.e., it was the only seats available at that point.
Yes, it sounds like literally no one would choose those seats because there was no one in those seats.
There we go.
Yeah, so back to my trip to Ringwood. I mentioned on social media the other day, it was a very, very unusual experience. We went to Prezzo, the popular Italian food chain. Not that we're being sponsored by them as yet, but you never know. Next month, who knows?
Yeah, next month.
I generally go there because you get a discount on the blue light card, which you get for working for the emergency services, which is very good. But this time it was a bit annoying. We got there, we sat down, all very pleasant. The waiting lady was called Charlotte. She seemed very, very, very pleasant, very welcoming. We sat down, looked at the menu, and then she said, "Oh," after a couple of minutes, "by the way, we can't do pizzas or burgers tonight." I was like, "Okay, that's fine. Thank you for letting us know. But we weren't going to get pizza or burgers anyway, so that's fine. We're going to get pasta."
Okay.
So, that's cool. Came back in 5 minutes' time, and we said, "Right, we're going to start with the garlic bread with mozzarella and caramelised onions." She said, "Oh, about that. We can't do pizza. We can't do pizza or burgers because we run out of mozzarella."
Amazing.
Blimey. Yes. So the popular Italian food chain that specialises in pizzas and mozzarella cheese had run out of mozzarella completely. So we couldn't have that either. She could have it without the cheese, like plain garlic bread with caramelised onions, and we went for something different. So in the end, that was a bit disappointing. And then the main course was disappointing as well, with salmon, pasta, and for £18, we probably could have made it 10 times better at home for next to nothing. But there we go. It's all about the ambience and how it can boost the economy with a very poor food and lack of choice and ridiculous prices. All good there. The other thing I think I alluded to last month was we had an issue of cables.
Yes.
I tried to talk about it last month. We'd put a lot of effort in during the early build process in running an Ethernet cable. Is it Ethernet? Is it Ethernet? Who knows? Yeah, LAN cable for the old people. From our lounge, so our Virgin server box, to the new room, so we can have all the nice cable connections through a nice switch in there, which will then power everything in through the Ethernet cables. Great idea. They fitted all the skirting, put everything back together, and then in the end, none of it worked. So it was very disappointing last month. I think I mentioned just a lot of effort went into it. So we bought a massive big black cable now, which goes around the entire outside of the building, but magically you can bury it underground so no one will ever see it. So I've got a big black cable. It works fine. I've managed to get the switch working, so it wasn't a switch issue. It was a cable issue because it had been squished. So that's all sorted. So the last issue now, the building work, is trying to plan around Christmas. Because as you know, we generally have a Christmas party in sort of mid-December, and we generally have lots of relatives around on Christmas Day. And the next part of the building work is to knock our existing bathroom and toilet out and turn it into a bathroom and an ensuite. But obviously during that period, we won't be able to do anything that people normally do in bathrooms and toilets. So we're going to have to share my mum's bit for a few weeks. So we've got to try and work out whether it's physically possible to fit all that building work in before the Christmas party or not. So that is the next bit of suspense that we're trying to work out of our builder over the next few days as to how long the next part's going to take. And the risk is that Christmas will happen without any toilets or washing facilities for the whole family, which wouldn't be ideal. So there we go. That's that bit. So I move on to TV programmes, G. We normally do it at this stage, don't we?
Yeah, let's do it. Any highlights of the month?
No, back to maths. Celebrity SAS finished, and we're very impressed with the two ladies that won it in the end. One of which used to be on Love Island, and Towie in Georgia. She was superb. So often... No.
Oh, okay.
No, Georgia Harrison.
Oh, okay. Different.
No, different one. Yeah. So it all surprised me in Celebrity SAS because you get the big beefy looking blokes at the start who said, "Yeah, I'm going to go all the way to the end. Nothing will stop me. I'm amazing." And then they sort of cry out halfway through. They have mental health issues, or they get injured, or they just give up and realise it wasn't for them. Like John Barrowman I mentioned last month, who lasted 32 minutes and gave up. But Georgia, she got all the way to the end. Not particularly strong looking lady. Not particularly someone you would assume would complete SAS training. But she was amazing. She was very bold, tried everything, didn't give up. Very mentally strong. She's been through a lot in her life as well with revenge porn and stuff. She brought some legislation through Parliament which got approved just before she went on the show. I was really impressed. So we always like it when the ladies who you think are going to go out in week one get all the way to the end and prove that it doesn't matter what gender or size or age or ability you are, as long as you've got the right mental attitude and give it a good go, then people do well in life. So I always like that. So really good show. The only other thing we saw was a program called Fool Me Once. Well, can't remember if I mentioned it last time, but it had Joanna Lumley and Michelle Keegan in it. It's an eight-parter on Netflix, and it was really good. So it was someone she used to be a fighter pilot and married to a man, and then the man got shot. And a year before that, her sister had been shot and killed as well. And it all unfolds into a massive mystery involving the whole family and a surprise killer. And it's very much up and down and really good. So I recommend that to anyone. So I think it's called Fool Me Once. It'd be called Fool Me Twice, but I think it's Fool Me Once. Makes more sense. So reach out on Netflix if you haven't seen it already. Really good. Anything you've been watching or enjoying or listening to, G?
Yeah, no, a few things. But Fool Me Once, I'm pretty sure, is a Harlan Coben book.
Yes.
And I think that they've got a sort of deal with him to do multiple things. And I saw they've made a few of his books into shows on other channels in the past. I've really enjoyed them. And my eldest sister, Beth, absolutely loves Harlan Coben. So, yeah, no, I keep meaning to check it out. We don't have Netflix at the moment. We always subscribe to something else, and there's always something else to watch. And we keep saying we'll sort of binge it for a couple of months and catch up on everything, but we just haven't got to it yet. So yeah, no, Fool Me Once is definitely on my list. So thank you. That's a good reminder. Speaking of subscribing to other things, we've got Disney Plus. So as it's Halloween, getting into the spirit of spooky season in October, I've been watching Agatha all along. So it's one of the Marvel shows, sort of spin-off from WandaVision, which itself was essentially a spin-off from all the films. Having kind of got quite bored of the Marvel stuff in general, got real sort of superhero fatigue. I was starting to watch Agatha all along very much in a sort of second screening and not really paying attention. But I really enjoyed WandaVision because it was so weird. And so I was keen to watch it. And I've got into it anyway. So it's Agatha is Agatha Harkness, who's a witch in the sort of superhero adjacent kind of world, but in a slightly more magical district of the superhero world. And it's her and a coven of witches having to sort of go along this witch's road for fairly sort of basic reasons, but essentially it means every week there's been a bit of a different kind of challenge and adventure with the characters. It's pushing the story along, so it's tying in with WandaVision, which is really good. And again, a bit like a lot of these Marvel shows, it feels to me like it's a show with a purpose to sort of advance the wider thing. So, but by the time it's got towards the end, it's really started to pick up. And it was the finale. Today in the UK, it came on, I think, last night US time, so Wednesday night US time. So I haven't got to see the finale yet. So depending on when we finish recording and when this gets uploaded, I'll be watching that. But feels sort of, again, October relevant, and I would recommend it. It's been fun. On a little bit of a handbrake turn, the other thing that we've been watching, which also I'd strongly recommend, but you're going to need to be in the right frame of mind, is a show called A Small Light, which is on You, so UK Gold, formerly known as, and it's on the streaming service You. But it was, actually that was on Disney Plus as well. And the reason why we finally got to it was while we're in America, they announced that it's another of these shows that they just randomly pulled from their streaming service and decided to effectively kill so that they could get a tax break. And yet this is a really well-reviewed, like crazily well-reviewed show, based on the couple, Meek and Jan Gies, who helped hide Anne Frank and her family. So it's a drama. It's very serious. It's a really hard watch, but it's also surprisingly sort of funny in amongst the horribleness. And we are also up to the finale of that one. So we're having a month, very different shows, but we're having a month of nearly having completed things in time for the podcast, which might also become a trend by the time I get to gaming. But yeah, really interested in it. Really recommend it. Like I said, it's not as dry as you might imagine, but it is a hard watch. I mean, it's incredibly sad, and incredibly sad with things going on in the world that we don't seem to have quite learnt our lesson. lastly from me, I also just wanted to highlight a film that I saw, which was Joker 2, or Folie à Deux. Have you seen the first one, James?
Uh, yes, years ago. But
Uh,
I've heard about the new one. I've seen the adverts for it and stuff, but never actually got around to watching it. I've seen the film for a long time, actually. But carry on, you're the film buff.
yeah.
Enlighten us.
Well, I particularly wanted to mention it, and we're running a bit long, so I'll be quick. But I wanted to mention it because it has performed absolutely appallingly at the box office, and it's been, usually people say a film's divisive or divisive when the reviews are kind of somewhere in the 60s. On the aggregators, this is a film that's kind of averaging in the 40%, so really badly reviewed. Terrible box office. I can completely see why people hate it. The first film was a kind of clever deconstruction of the kind of Joker origin type story, and I think got a little bit latched onto by some sort of slightly scary type people because it's sort of about, laughing while the world burns, essentially. But the second film, in their wisdom, is a musical almost entirely set in a courtroom, um, and it pretty much goes nowhere in terms of advancing the story. It's all very much just the court case that would follow that first film. So I can see why it hasn't done particularly well, but also I really enjoyed it. And I came out of it, I watched it on my own in the cinema. It was during the day, but it was literally just me in the cinema. Not a great sign for a film that's been out about a week at the time. I came out, I looked up some reviews and stuff because I try to not see too much before I see a film because I don't want to sort of sway myself. Saw how absolutely slated it was getting, and thought, is it just me? And then this week, Quentin Tarantino's come out and said he loves the film, he thinks it's brilliant, and I suddenly think, I'm not sure actually if that's better. It's nice that someone else likes it, but I'm sort of 50-50 of whether that's a good thing. But yeah, if you're interested in watching something which has really got genuinely very strong reactions, mostly negative, but from me very positive, then I would recommend it. And it's just come to streaming.
So last month you were a bearded Judith Chalmers, and this month you're a slightly less weird Quentin Tarantino. Wonderful.
Slightly less weird. I would take that. That's very kind.
Slightly.
Okay, well, it still counts.
Yes.
Nice.
Probably slightly less rich as well, probably, to be fair.
Yeah, I think that's definitely more than slightly. That's oh well, I'll take it. I'd rather be normal than rich. No, actually, let's not dwell on that one. Right. Okay. Just quickly, any podcast news? You mentioned TikTok, James. I've heard of this. I've never used it. I'm not quite as old as I'm trying to make out. I do know what it is, but yeah. How are we on TikTok, and how are we doing on TikTok?
Oh, blowing up, Giles, blowing up. It's a weird one. I've had TikTok for a while and watched some videos on it, but I've never contributed to TikTok before. Okay. This was in my parenting blog days, because it's meant to be the next big thing, but I couldn't really be bothered with it, so I didn't. So it wasn't the next big thing for me. It was just something that watching silly videos on. But then I posted one of our video clips on, and loads of people watched it. Like thousands of people saw it. And then people at work were saying, "Oh, I saw you on TikTok the other day." I'm like, "Okay, that's really odd." So there's obviously an algorithm at work there which links me up with people, even though I've told it not to. They managed to find people I work with and shows in my various podcasts and out of work ventures. Literally 5 or 6 people of various ages, but I don't know that well, come up to me and said, "Oh, I see you on the podcast the other day." Cool. So it's got some potential, TikTok, for us. So we've now got our own Aches and Games TikTok account as well, where we share some clips and some interesting bits. So do look out for the Aches and Games TikTok account in the future. It's a pretty cool name for it. I have no idea what it is. TikTok account. Yeah, look at that. Also, on the technical side, very excitingly, our website, which you probably remember is achesandgames.co.uk, not com, definitely not com. Its domain authority is now leapt up from 1 to 4, which is a massive increase. So for those who aren't in the know, the domain authority tells you how important a website is, and therefore, generally speaking, how much you can flog links for on the website to other people who are unscrupulous. But yeah, it just shows that people have been looking at it. It's deemed to be fairly trusted, and some people have been linking to it, which has put up our domain authority a bit. So check it out while it's still young and fresh before it has so much traffic and so much media attention that it'd be impossible to get to it, because that's, like we said before, exactly how websites work. So please do check it out, and TikTok.
That's good marketing, James. Scarcity. We need if you really want to find out what this website's all about, you've got to get in before it runs out. So
yeah,
spot on.
Only so much to go around.
Indeed. And the only other update I think, which is worth sharing, is thank you for those of you who've been following us since the start. Very welcome, warm welcome to any new listeners. And we do have a few new followers, and we had a few new listeners this month, so hello and thanks for joining us. But we are coming up to a year, as James mentioned, so next month we'll maybe do a bit more sort of reflecting back. But we started off by saying that we really wanted to hear from you guys in terms of contributing towards anything you're playing, anything you want us to play in terms of our monthly game. And just a shout out, which we haven't done for a couple of months, for if anyone has anything that they want to raise for the pod or any suggestions or feedback, please do get in touch on all those channels that we rabbit out at the start. Right, I think we've gone record long at the start again, James. Shall we get on to half of what people may be here for, which is the games? What have you been playing?
Oh, I thought we were going to start talking about the aches. That's annoying. Onto the games. Boo. So we normally spend the first bit talking about our game of the month, don't we, Giles, from October. And obviously for October we picked not really a spooky game, more of a horror type game with the occasional jump scare, which was Dead Space, which is obviously a fairly recent remaster, which smashed its way onto the Xbox streaming service. That's what I'm playing on, isn't it? Xbox? Yeah.
It's on both. It was PlayStation's monthly game last month, but it is still on Xbox Game Pass via EA Play.
Actually, I've been playing it on PlayStation, so thank you for reminding me that. They're both sit next to each other, and the controllers are very similar, apart from the PlayStation one's a lot better, obviously.
Xbox better, yeah. Good point.
So as you remember, as Giles described last month, Dead Space is about a team going to sort of a mining rig, which is in space, but it's having a bit of a bad time. So it's not performing technologically as it was intended. So therefore this team go up to try and fix some bits and make it do things like it should do, like, I don't know, welcome mining ships and stuff. But when they get there, disaster has struck, regrettably. Makes it even more poignant because the main character who you play has a partner on the ship who is part of the medical crew, probably. And he's a bit worried that when he finds that the whole place has been taken over by dodgy aliens and everyone's pretty much dead, that his wife might be one of them. So that's part of the plot. And as we said last month, it's quite scary, but it's also meant to be sort of a psychological mental health thingy for the main character, because he's also got that terror and dread that his wife might be a monster that's going to eat him as well. So that's roughly the game. It's on a ship called the Ishimura, roughly pronunciation, and it's an interesting game, isn't it, Giles? What's your initial thoughts been? I've done the intro this time. Let's do it the other way around.
Yeah, that was very nice. I think first impression was it looks bloody gorgeous. I mean, it's horrible, obviously, by the time you get to all the, killing and feasting and such. But it looks fantastic. I mean, the lighting looked really good. It's got this real sort of sense of weight. I loved like clomping my way around in my little space suit around the Ishimura, which is sort of, again, in the tradition. I think we talked about this a bit for Still Wakes the Deep, that kind of sense of a place kind of having a personality almost. So really enjoyed the sort of griminess and the sort of weight of the place. Jumped a few times, certainly at the start. It's very dark, so they could do with electrician on the Ishimura, I think. Sometimes you even get to make it darker. I don't know if you've got to one of these bits, James, but
yes,
you have to choose between maybe turning the lights off, taking the power cell from the lights and powering something else, which, always seems like a really bad idea and always fills me with absolute dread, as does any kind of random noise from around a corner. So I've learned through this game that I'm really a complete scaredy cat. I have to say I found it incredibly difficult. Very tense. I haven't played a survival horror for a while, and it's definitely in that kind of space. So initially I started playing and I was just firing off all my rounds of bullets and other weaponry, and not really paying too much attention, and I died a lot. And I also have played lots of games where I seem to be able to roll or jump out of the way of things that are trying to attack me. So I very much miss the ability to do anything useful like that and just stand there while some bastard monster just eats my face off. So yeah, that I'd say that's my kind of main feeling. I mean, it's basically Aliens the game, isn't it? After talking about Alien Isolation being more of a slow-paced hidey horror, this is attacked by horrible monsters type horror and just desperately trying to make your way to the next save point. What did you think, James?
Yeah, equally harder than a very hard thing in hard season. But yeah, so for the first probably hour, it annoyed me because it was a bit too hard. It was really disappointing because I don't normally mind hard games. I'm not bad at games. I'm quite competent in life generally and at gaming. But this one I found quite hard. Possibly because of the tactics, like you suggested earlier. You're inclined to try and kill the monsters as soon as you can. But in reality, you need a little bit more patience and a little bit more tactics. So, like, for example, it's good to shoot their legs and kneecaps because then they fall on the floor, so you can then whack them apart. Whereas if you shoot them in the head, they don't generally die. They just keep rolling towards you and biting you with their ugly faces. So tactically, it took a little while getting into. So the first chapter took me an absolute age. But I've raced through chapters 2 and 3 a bit quicker, so I feel a bit better about myself after getting through the first 3 chapters at least, so that's something. But it's taken me a good 6 hours so far to beat 3 chapters, which is probably longer than it should take the average person. And at one stage I got so annoyed that I had to put it on easy for a little while because this particular scene just annoyed me so much that I was going to give up on the game because I wasn't getting any enjoyment out of it because it's too hard. So there we go. I enjoyed the storyline. You get a nice feeling of isolation on it, even though it's not alien isolation, it's still a good feeling of isolation because you're separated from your teammates pretty instantly. One of them gets dead and the other 2 go off in different directions and leave you to do all the work while they sort of hang around and man the comms or whatever they...
Very selfish of the one who got dead. I mean...
Yeah, when she arrives, breaks her leg, and then you come back to have a chat to her and she gets mauled and dies. If you're an extra in that film, you won't get paid much for being in the film because it's barely in it. Useless character.
But, spoiler warning for the first, 10 minutes of the game. Also, spoiler warning for the original Scream, if anyone hasn't seen that movie coming up. But it's a bit like that, I suppose, isn't it? It's a bit like having a sort of famous actress and they don't make it to the credits.
Yeah, so a bit disappointing. But the other 2 crew members so far in the first 3 chapters go off and do their own thing while you are left completely alone, feeling bad and hoping you're not going to run into your dead wife in monster form at some stage, which in the first 3 chapters you don't, which might be a spoiler. Who knows what happens later on. Fascinating to find out. But anyway, like Giles said, it's on the ship, so it's very, very dark in places. And like you mentioned, being at the low power status of the ship due to the technological issues, sometimes you have to turn off the lights or the lift in order to open a door, which is an awful design feature of the ship. I don't know who designed it, but I need to go back to ship school. That's ridiculous. And a lot of the time you're in a room which is dark and then you can be in a room which is full of smoke and then you can be flying around on a jetpack, which is quite fun, but can be a little bit disorientating when you're trying to find out where to go on your jetpack. And there's one bit as well where you got a nice centrifuge which swings around and tries to take your head off. That's quite good fun. I enjoyed that part. There's a few little puzzly bits where you got to try and work out what you're doing. A lot of the tactical parts trying to work out how to avoid or kill the monsters. I was hoping you'd be able to avoid the monsters and run, but a lot of the scenes you can't avoid them and run. You have to physically kill them before the next door opens or the next part starts. So it really is do it until it happens. And most of the time, the main tactic is to whack them to death with your weapon. So instead of shooting them, I spend a lot of time just standing there whacking people to death until they fall on the floor and then you stamp on them to get an extra credit or an extra little bit of health pack or whatever else. So a very interesting game. That's very hard. I think I will complete it because it's not annoying me as much as it did at the start because I've got into it now and it's a bit easier now. I've got used to it. But yeah, good game. Quite horrific in parts, quite gory, but entertaining thus far.
Yeah, interesting. I was going to ask you if you were going to finish it, so thank you for preempting that. I think about 2 or 3 chapters from the end, so I'm a little bit further than you this month. But there were certainly times where I nearly either gave up or sort of threw my controller to the floor in sheer frustration. And I didn't think I would get as far through it and enjoy it as much as I have. So, yeah, something kind of clicked a bit more for me later on in the game. And I feel now that at least it's fair, even though it can be quite punishing. So I think I found a good balance for it. But there's a few tough bits to come, so I won't promise that it's going to get any easier. Awesome. So I think part of the reason why you're not quite through that one is you've been playing quite a lot of other stuff, looking at our notes. Anything else you wanted to pull out from your list?
Not a lot of stuff, but as we talked about last month, I spent a lot of time on Plague Tale Requiem because I wanted to finish that because I was really loving that one. I thought it was one of the best games I've ever played, very enjoyable, obviously very, very ratty. If you don't like rats, an awful game for you. But it's very dramatic. Kind of an emotional ending, not to give too much away. There's a kind of big choice for the main character towards the end to make in order to save the world, as often happens in types of games. Similar in some ways to The Last of Us, which we talked about before. So it's got some elements of the game of Uncharted in that you creep around in bushes and try not to attract the enemy. But also it's a kind of a similar overall theme to The Last of Us in terms of saving the world by making some kind of personal sacrifice. So very interesting. At the end of the game, which I got to and really enjoyed, it's beautiful at the end. Lovely scenery, lots of flowers. It goes back to how nice it felt at the start of the game, back at the end, but with a different haircut. So at the end, the main character has very short hair. Still only 15 though, bizarrely, even though she looks mid-20s in the game and acts like someone in the mid-20s. It doesn't feel like a young teenage character. Very odd. A great game. No, indeed. Would happily play it again and would happily play the first one now because hopefully that has now become free on some services, as we might discuss later. So I'll probably play Plague Tale Innocence at some stage, even though I know what happens, but it'd be great to play because it is a really enjoyable game. So I spent a lot of time on that one. Glad to finish it. A bit disappointed to finish it, like with all good games, like with all good books and all good series. When it comes to an end, you're happy that you've got to the end because it's really nice, but disappointed that you can't play anymore. So yeah, and I know Scotty, our good friend, started playing it. Don't know how far he's got. I know he loved The Last of Us, so hopefully he's been enjoying it. If he hasn't been enjoying it, I'm sure we'll mention it and we'll mention it in the next pod. But hopefully he's been enjoying it. If he's not enjoying it, it's a bit silly because it's a great game. So Scotty, if you're listening to this, don't be silly. Be good. So that was that one. And I've also spent a lot of time playing Fortnite, the game that I reassured myself I'd never get into because I thought it was going to be arse. Turns out it's arse in part, but it's really enjoyable in other parts. So me and Josh have been playing it a lot together. And what I probably didn't realise at the start is there's lots of quests, there's lots of different chapters, so the whole map changes every few months and you get whole new characters and whole new range of weapons and whole new storylines, which is quite good fun. So the season at the moment has been Marvel, so sort of linking back to Giles' WandaVision, and every time you said WandaVision I thought you were going to say One Direction, but you didn't, which is good.
Rest in peace.
So, yeah, indeed, blimey. So there's lots of Marvel chests where you can get special Marvel type weapons, like you can get Iron Man's gauntlets and thingies, jetpacks, so you can fly around a bit, and lots of cool stuff as well. So there's also a Halloween bit that came in for Halloween, which obviously finishes tomorrow in there. So there's lots of Halloween bits in there, so you can get like pumpkin shooters and exciting Billy Bomb that go off, and people riding around the bikes and do lots of challenges with the people from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So really exciting, really enjoyable, and every now and again you have a live event, so everyone around the world clubs together at the time, goes on Fortnite at this particular time of day on a particular day and watches a live event. You sort of take part in it and try and kill off one of the big characters, and then you get an input, or you get to see what the next chapter is going to be, where the storyline's going, and sort of feel part of it. So it's really interesting. So the next live event is on tomorrow, Friday the 1st, the day this podcast comes out. So if you listen to it tomorrow, fair play to you. I won't be, but good luck to you. So if you listen to it tomorrow, 10:30 tonight in the UK, it will see the live event where it ends the Halloween season, might end the Marvel season, and then we'll introduce the next one, which involves festivals and lots of music. So very interesting things coming up. So me and Josh have been enjoying it. I didn't want to pay for anything originally, so I've worked my way to get my first non-paid for skin by working quite hard and getting less awful at it. I'm still awful at it compared to normal people, but it's a lot more enjoyable. So we've spent a lot of time playing Fortnite. Joshua loves it, and I've really got into it. You never played it, do you? Or did you?
Yeah, I've played it more recently because Yeah, Hannah's nephew, Ted. Hi, Ted. You shouldn't be listening. You probably aren't listening. But given what you just said about TikTok, James, I'm suddenly paranoid that people I know will see this.
Yeah.
Ted really loves it and plays it all the time. And whenever we go away, he's like, in fact, whenever I log into the Epic Games Store to download my free games, I clearly flash up on his, because it's connected all through Epic, flash up if he's playing as online, and he messages me going, "Oh, are you playing Fortnite?" And I'm like, "No, Ted, I'm still just collecting a huge list of games on my PC that I'll never play," which he can't really understand. And when I think about it, he's probably the one in the right here. But whenever we go away together as a family, as a group, especially he's like, "Make sure you bring your Switch and we can play Fortnite." And yeah, I'm awful. I'm awful generally. I'm okay at first person shooters, not so good at the third person perspective in Fortnite, but also particularly bad because playing on Switch, if anyone's ever had the Xbox and the Switch, flicking backwards and forwards between, they switch the X and the Y button and the A and the B button. James, you're nodding along. You feel the pain. But that's horrendously difficult for my little brain to get around. I can just about go backwards and forwards between PlayStation and Xbox, but the Switch and the Xbox, particularly because they're literally opposite, that's like rubbing my stomach and patting my head at the same time. I just cannot do it. And especially when Ted, bless him, he's very supportive, but he will be saying, "Oh, just press Y," and I'm hammering on what appears to be X. I do keep thinking I should probably play it a bit without him, just so that next time he wants me to play, I'm not quite so bad. But so many games, that's the problem.
So that's what I've been doing in the evenings on Fortnite without Joshua when he goes to bed. If I've been getting annoyed with Dead Space or had enough or played Direct with too many rats, then I have a couple of rounds of Fortnite on my own in the ranked or unranked and play against strangers, and lots of children are very good and lots of adults that spend far too much time playing Fortnite and destroying me within seconds. But I've been working my way through the quests and getting through all the different challenges, and that's been quite rewarding in itself. There's also loads of different games within Fortnite, which I didn't realise. So you can play like Red versus Blue and lots of different challenges. There's like escape rooms on there. There's like different adventures you can play with your Fortnite characters. It's really good. So I recommend Fortnite. I thought it was going to be awful. And in some ways it is, but it's quite entertainingly awful in lots of ways. And I'm quite excited about the live event tomorrow at 10:30 at night. That's how shallow my life has become. I'm excited about a Fortnite live event.
On a Friday night as well. Let's recognise the fact that a few years ago we would have been out, socialising with real people. But this is better, isn't it?
And fascinatingly, Joshua's away at a sleepover tomorrow night, so he can't see the live event. So he's asked me to log on for him, record it on my phone so I can show him the live event when he comes home the next day. So that's my level of dedication as a father.
Amazing.
And a general gaming icon.
Because you want to see it. Yeah, I'm sure there'll be
importantly,
other parents very much nodding along to that. And like I said, with me, nephews, Dylan's grown out of it a little bit. He's moved on to other things, but yeah, Ted is bang on the age and the target audience. One of the other things I've been playing, I'll be really quick, is Until Dawn. You talked about it in our sort of spooky special last month, so I don't need to describe it. If anyone doesn't know, it's a sort of interactive movie type game, but you have a bit of agency. You control the characters, move them around, and you have to make lots of decisions. I mentioned going backwards and forwards between the two controllers, so those quick time events where you have to quickly pick a button. I basically had to predict roughly when they're coming and look down and remind myself where the buttons are.
Yes.
So that was a bit of an extra challenge. But I completed that in October, so that was my kind of break from Dead Space, just in terms of it was still very horror themed, but more sort of 80s slasher type horror. But it was a totally different type of game, not frustrating at all. So that was really fun. I really enjoyed it. It's nonsense, isn't it? Like the first half of the game is a proper sort of slasher type movie, Friday the 13th type setup. I really enjoyed, and then it takes a bit of a turn in the second half. But also, I just wanted to say I was doing very well. I don't want to pat myself on the back, but I will. I was doing very well to keep everyone alive, right up until the last kind of sequence, at which point I lost pretty much everyone. I think 2 people survived my game, so enjoyed that one. It was fun, and the Quarry is included in Game Pass at the moment on Xbox, and I think some of the Man of Medan games, or the no, Man of Medan's the game, isn't it? The anthology games are on PlayStation Plus, so I might well try another one because I really enjoyed that. Just quickly, because I haven't played a lot of them, but I wanted to highlight one of that you mentioned playing Fortnite with Joshua. Hannah and I have been playing Super Mario Brothers Wonder on the Switch. I got it for her, or for us, because we talked before about how sort of 2D platformers or 2D games without fixed cameras, probably kind of the best balance of fun and frustration for her at the moment in particular. And Super Mario Bros. Wonder is a relatively recent side-scrolling Mario game. Starts off incredibly twee, I've got to say, and it was a little bit like, this isn't just really childlike, but I know a lot of sort of reviewers and stuff who I trust who said it was great, and we're completely into it. It's really fun. So between that and Bubble Bobble, which is something that Hannah played a lot when she was younger, and which is available on Antstream, and where she could really show me how to play, which was a lovely little turnaround. She absolutely was carrying the 2 of us during some sessions of Bubble Bobble, so I'm sure we'll be playing those for a couple of months to come, so I'll talk maybe a bit more in detail in the future.
Just to link a couple of your bits together. Obviously, Until Dawn was made by Supermassive Games, isn't it?
Yes, indeed.
Yes. And obviously, the other nice games you've been playing have been 2D side-scrollers, but I've been playing a lot of, well, not a lot of, we played it today with Joshua, Little Nightmares 2, which we talked about in our Halloween special last month. And being that I'm wearing a Halloween outfit today, although it's my normal Thursday attire, just for recollection. We're really enjoying Little Nightmares 2. But Joshua said, it's probably one of the most disturbing games he's played. And I was like, yeah, you weren't meant to be playing it, son. I was just giving it a quick go. And then he wanted to have a go, and then it got to the part where there's a teacher with a really long neck who reached around. And then we both got a little bit freaky. And then he passed me back the controller saying, can you do this bit? I don't like this bit. No, nor do I. So yeah, it's deep and dark the whole way through. It's definitely not a 2D side-scroller. It's going into the page and coming out of the page and going left and right and up and down, all over the place scroller. But definitely 3D. But quite complicated if you're not used to that kind of stuff. But really good, really atmospheric, like we said before. Perfect for Halloween. Lots of sort of creepiness in it. You don't really know what's going on, like we said before with Inside and Limbo. You don't really know what's going on. And I still don't know what's going on at the moment. There's lots of people with clay faces who seem to have children with clay heads that you can smash an off with a hammer. Bizarre. But yeah, really enjoying it together. Hopefully Joshua won't want to play it again in the future, because my guess would be he's going to have a couple of little nightmares tonight when he goes to bed about the game, and I probably will too. It's really good. So definitely recommended for any adults and any older children that aren't scared by teachers with massive long necks who eat you. All good.
Yes, that was when you were talking about it last month. That particular section was exactly what I was thinking of when I was, I think, trying to describe how I really enjoyed it. But that section, that was the one for me. You mentioned Supermassive, so they're developing the 3rd one, aren't they? So the first 2 were the people who made the first 2 have moved on to do something else, but is effectively Little Nightmares as well. It's very similar. Supermassive, who did Until Dawn, I think are actually developing the 3rd game for the Little Nightmares. Is that what you were linking?
No, Little Nightmares 2 has Supermassive in massive bold font when you load it.
Oh, right. Oh, okay. There's 2 then.
It's a Supermassive Games, Unreal Engine, Bosch, which is why I linked it back to this one. That's how my brain works. It looks for patterns and tries to draw in.
I'll chop this bit out, James. It'll be fine. I like to make myself sound clever, so we'll get rid of that. Excellent. So that's what we've been playing. Is that everything, James? I think so.
Literally everything. You played a little bit on the Switch on holiday, but I'll talk about that later in the hardness section.
Good plan. Because we do have to rattle through. We've got this month's Game of the Month, November, to talk about. So what have we chosen this month, James? Do you want to take us through it?
I'm assuming you mean this month's Game of the Months. plural.
Games of the month. Game.
Oh yeah,
of the month.
Games of the month. Yeah, not game of the month.
Game
Makes
of
no sense.
the month. Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, there we go. What is?
Insert your own pluralization. Is that a word? Who knows? Anyway, so this month we're going to be playing a game some of you might have heard of called Call of Duty Black Ops 6. So that's currently for free on the Xbox subscription service. You can also buy it on Xbox as well for like some quid. But in real life, like on PlayStation, about 70 quid, so it's quite an expensive game. So a good benefit of the subscription services. We've probably talked about subscription services at length before, so if you are interested in our views on them, please look back at our previous episodes. It'll be good for our follower count and boost our ratings. Lovely. So this game only came out very recently, probably October the 24th, off the top of my head. Complete guess. Who knows? And it's about shooting people with guns and stuff. But deeper, these people used to work for the CIA, which is an American agency, as some of you may know from films. They got kicked out because some dodgy dark force started getting involved in the CIA and kind of took it over, and they kicked out all the goodies and left it with baddies. So these goodies have gone off and they're trying to sort of clear their names and also bring down the new dark forces within the CIA. So that's kind of what the game's about. It's a Black Ops team, obviously, so you're still doing lots of spy type stuff, and it's quite sort of secret and undercover and a bit stealthy. So lots of fun stuff involved by the look of it. And I've played Black Ops games in the past. There's been many of them, and they've generally been very good. So hopefully this one is good as well. You've done Black Ops before, G, I'm assuming?
I think only the first one from memory. But yeah, really enjoyed that. It's either one or two that I think is right up there in terms of the single player game. But yeah, I haven't played Call of Duty for a very long time, and like you said, given that it's available through the subscription, it's got great reviews, hasn't it? The single player in particular. So looking forward to that one. I was just giggling because I think I think listeners let you behind the curtain here. Sometimes we really prepare how we're going to describe a game, and sometimes we might wing it a little bit. And I mean, I don't think you could tell, James. I was just listening to your description of Call of Duty. That was awesome. I think they should put that on the box.
It's quite accurate, though, to be fair.
It was, yeah.
Sounded a bit rambling, but I had all the facts in there. And considering I don't read my notes at all, it's just off the top of my head, and it sounded about right. Awesome. Interestingly, with Black Ops 6, though, it has a very good campaign. The campaign's gone down pretty well, and it's meant to be graphically amazing. But it also has some multiplayer, which is obviously meant to be very good. But it also has zombie rounds as well. And I think there's been a few series where there's not been zombies, and now they've brought zombies back. So for people who enjoy zombies, then fill your boots with the zombies. So yeah, looking forward to playing that one. That'll get some good game time this month. My favourite Call of Duty ever is still the World War II ones. I like the World War II themed stuff. That's quite authentic. So this one's going to be nothing like that at all, obviously, because it's based in the late 90s in the CIA in America. But no doubt it'll be very enjoyable. And I thought, for a laugh, it'd be quite fun to compare and contrast a modern shoot-'em-up game with an old one, which is why it's 2 games of the month, unless it's over 2 months, in which case it'll be 2 games of the month. So we're going to go for a game called the Chaos Engine, which some of you who are old, like us, might remember from the heady days of the Amiga back in the mid to late 90s. I think it might have came out in 94, 93. I'll Google it later and let you know. But it's a game where you take, there's like 6 main characters who all have their own different skills, and you go around shooting lots of stuff and solving missions and stuff. And I remember it because I had it on the Amiga. I've still got the big box in the cupboard somewhere, but obviously I've not played it for a good 20-odd years. And it's available on Antstream, which I subscribed to, and Giles said he wasn't going to unless I did, and I did, and therefore he had no willpower at all and went straight in and boshed it. So we're going to give that a go as well to, like we said, compare and contrast. Obviously, I'm guessing there are going to be some small differences in terms of the graphics and sound and maybe some of the gameplay features. But we'll talk about both of them. It covers our remit of covering old games, but also we're doing cutting edge with Call of Duty Black Ops 6. Yay.
Yeah, we've come dangerously close to being relevant on a couple of times this year. Only a couple. Yeah, James. For those of you not able to see James at this very point, he's casting doubt on those But we have, okay, let me rephrase. We have played relatively new releases every now and again, which is a bit of a surprise because we do both tend to play through sales or through subscriptions, so we tend to be a bit behind the times. But again, with Xbox dropping some of the brand new games into the subscription services, PlayStation's also done the same with some of the smaller games that we played, like Animal Well, for example, which was I think we played in release month. So yeah, really looking forward to going back to Call of Duty, and also looking forward to going back to the 90s, because as anyone our age, I mean, basically we never really left. Cool, great choices, James. Look forward to those ones next month.
Okay.
Okay, we're looking at the clock. We are in danger of a record-long episode, which feels like something we say every month. So we will rattle through. There's been a lot of news, but they're all quite small. So I'm just going to group together a few things I thought we might want to mention.
Lovely.
PlayStation's Concord is now fully dead, like the plane, unfortunately. This was a live service game that launched a couple of months ago. It had absolutely terrible player counts, and they pulled it, saying we're going to think about what to do with this and rework it and come back. They lied, or rather, what they decided was that it was not salvageable. So they've closed the game permanently, and they have also, unfortunately, closed the studio that made it, Firewalk. $200 million down the drain. Some accounts say up to $400 million. Just a huge miss, really, from Sony, who usually have a great track record. So I thought that was worth mentioning. No glee there. There's the usual console warrior nonsense, but this is a lot of people who've lost their jobs. It's a game that people have poured their hearts and soul into over years. That is not, it was up for about 2 weeks, I think. So very few people got to even experience it. It's a pretty tough industry to work in, I think, James.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Well, yeah, it's got plus and minus, isn't it? It's good fun, probably making games, but also obviously got all the time pressures, and like any other job, when you get into it, you've got to meet deadlines, and unfortunately, at the end of it, you've got to sell games, and if you don't sell games or if people don't play the games, then you're pretty much dead in the water pretty quickly. So it's pretty cutthroat these days, isn't it? It's not like the olden days where there was only like 10 games that existed for the Spectrum and everyone bought them when they came out and played them all to death because nothing else was around. Now you've got infinite games from infinite number of years. So if your game doesn't hit on the first week and it doesn't get good reviews or player count doesn't hit, then it's all over. It's sad, really. Yeah,
absolutely. Similar story with a smaller game, but Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown. It was a kind of side-scrolling Metroidvania type entry into the Prince of Persia series from Ubisoft, so not a small business, but a smaller team, and they've disbanded that team. No chance of a sequel, unfortunately, but I'll hold my hands up. It was a game I wanted to play and I haven't bought or subscribed to, so ultimately I think the lesson here is if you want these games to do well, you're not a charity. We're not here to sort of use all of our money, but if you want them to succeed and you like the look of it, then give them a go.
Quite high street shops, really, isn't it, in town centres? If you don't go to the shops anymore because you do everything online and you don't pay for stuff, then they close down pretty quick. So yeah, use it or lose it.
Exactly.
Sounds like a Grange Hill type motto, doesn't it?
Just say no as well. Although they should have specified which questions, because that could be terrible advice in certain circumstances. Slightly happier news over at Halo Studios, as it is now known, formerly 343. They have seemingly turned a page, and hopefully Halo can come back to what it was. Did you see they did some little Unreal 5 experiment tech demo thingies, James? Did you have a chance to look at these by any chance?
No, I did not. Were they good?
Check them out. They look fantastic. But then it's kind of easy to make a tech demo look good. So the question is, how are they going to translate that into games? Obviously, being a major multiplayer element to Halo, there's lots of questions about will it be a multi-platform game, with Xbox tending to release more and more on other platforms. So watch this space. Could be a reboot of the original, but that's a way out. But a bit of better news I thought I'd share. And then just picking out a couple of other positive stories, this podcast has managed to get Alien Isolation 2 greenlit 10 years after the original. I mean, I can only assume, because we talked about it last month, and literally like the week after the podcast landed, they announced a sequel to this game, 10 years old. Surely it can't be a coincidence.
No, it's a bit too coincidental, really, isn't it?
I know, exactly.
Yeah.
So maybe we could have a think for next month what games we would like, old games we'd like to have a long lost sequel to, and we can manifest those into existence as well. But no, very excited about that, apart from being a complete hypocrite, because as I mentioned last month, I didn't make it through the first one. So maybe I should go back to that when I'm feeling braver. Awesome.
Maybe this one would be less scary for you, Giles. Maybe it'd be less scary.
Nice. Yeah. Maybe the aliens kind of learned to get along with others a little bit more, and he's sort of socialised. We shall see. Loads of other good stuff. Very encouraging previews for Indiana Jones and Stalker 2. A game called Neva came out, which I mentioned, Gris, Gris, a beautiful 2D side-scroller a few episodes ago. This is the next game from them. I actually paid money for that, or rather I used my prize credit from my family party that I mentioned earlier to buy that, along with some reward points. Thank you, James. I believe you were doing some consulting on what that present should be. And yeah, some good games look like they're coming out too. They just announced the PS Plus games for November. Hot Wheels 2, which looks fun. Ghostwire Tokyo, which has a colon, and Death Note Killer Within, which doesn't have a colon. And I was trying to work out where to put the pause in that, and I just thought, screw it, I'll just go straight through. But that is a day one release on PlayStation Plus Essentials. Apparently Death Note is a very popular, possibly manga. So I'd imagine it's Death Note colon Killer Within, but they have had a colonoscopy because there is no colon to be seen. Thank you very much.
It doesn't feel like the kind of game I'm going to be playing anyway, so the colon or lack of thereof doesn't really bother me too much. However, Hot Wheels sounds interesting. Over 130 different vehicles you can use and lots of different races and fun. And the other one, that Ghostwire Tokyo, sounds interesting. You go to a suburb of Tokyo that's normally bustling, and you rock up and there's nothing there. Everyone's buggered off, and you sort of try and figure out why. So that sounds quite fun. Meant to be graphically very advanced and only on the PS5, which is a miracle these days because so many games are still PS5, PS4. So this was PS5 only, so bound to mean it's going to be awesome. So hopefully it will be.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And it's been in the higher tiers of PlayStation Plus before, but it's now on the Essentials. So if you subscribe through the sort of relatively cheaper version, you'll get that, and you'll also be able to keep it for as long as you've got your subscription. It's also in Game Pass because it's owned by Microsoft now. But like you said, exclusive to this generation. And you mentioned earlier, James, you've seen, I take it, either in the notes or elsewhere, but I was going to mention that Plague Tale Innocence, the first game, is free on Prime Gaming from today. As of recording. So glad you saw that one. Really interested to see what you think if you go back to that after the second one, because it's a lot more, it's a lot shorter, it's a lot more, what's the word? Basic, I suppose, in a way, but story-wise, and you can see the connection very much. So interesting.
Well, I've got my PC fully set up now, and so even got a new graphics card has slipped into it. A graphics, because I mentioned before, didn't I, with the PSVR 2, which have the adapter that you can use on a PC, you had to be over a certain, less than a certain age of graphics card. So now I've got a graphics card that is compatible with it, so I can get one eventually. Maybe I'll put it on my Christmas list or something similar. So, very much looking forward to playing that one, as mentioned earlier, on my PC.
Fantastic. Good stuff. Right,
can I mention a couple of little games?
Yeah, I was going to go for it.
Yeah, just a couple of little ones, topical, because Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered is out today, 31st of October. Obviously not today in real life, because today is the 1st of November, the launch day. But if you went back in time to yesterday, then that'll be out today. So Zero Dawn Remastered out on the PC and PlayStation 5. Again, looks awesome. It's up to the graphical standards of Horizon Forbidden West and looks pretty cool. So I've never actually played either of the Horizon games yet. So it'll be interesting to play that one. So I'll probably play that one first now because it makes logical sense chronologically. Also, Animal Well, you mentioned earlier, is now not just on PlayStation, it's on Xbox as well. So that'd be good for those Xboxers because it's a really interesting game, very different. If you wanted to find out more about it, there's probably a podcast on it that we've done, and there's probably a review on the website, which is probably called apesandgames.co.uk.com. So do check that out if you want to find out if it's worth making the purchase on the Xbox system. And also, I'm not sure if you're going to talk about the partner preview. There wasn't much excitement on it from the Xbox bit, apart from one game called Phasmophobia, which has been out on the PC for a long time. But I thought it looked really interesting. So that's out on PlayStation and Xbox. But Xbox kindly talked about it and gave a preview, and it looked really good. I thought the trailer was quite fun, actually. It wasn't relating to the game at all. It just sort of gave you a preview when it's coming out and showed you some of the techniques and some of the images. But interestingly, it's a up to 4-player co-op, cross-platform. So you can detect and identify and sort of solve ghost-type stuff. And I think there's like 40-plus ghosts in, I don't know, 7 or 8 different, maybe 12 locations. Who knows? But it sounds quite fun because you can team up with 3 of your busy mates across platform and solve mysteries and stuff together. So that might be something we could do in the future with a couple of us plus us two to solve ghosty type stuff. That's quite fun.
Yeah, there you go, listeners. If you fancy joining us for something like that, just get in touch. That would be fun. Thanks, James. I'm really pleased you went back to it as well. I was trying desperately to keep us under an hour and a quarter, but they were important things to say. Yeah, the stream was. I thought it was a bit lackluster, but it got sort of surprisingly good feedback. I thought there was a multiplayer game from Remedy in the Control and Alan Wake universe, which could be fun as well. But yeah, it feels like there's one of these more or less every month at the moment. So I think the novelty is sort of losing its luster, but comes to what you said, there's so many games coming out, and it's quite hard to stand out sometimes in the field. Awesome.
And also, weirdly, we talk about games a lot for the last year, but we haven't played a game together for over a year now, so we really need to get back on that particular horse. Okay. Not a horse game particularly, unless you're going to play Red Dead Redemption 2, which is all horse-based. Yeah, maybe Phasmophobia, which is not Phantasmagoria or Phasmagoria. But yeah, that looks good. So let's give that a go.
Sounds good.
Maybe Scotty hit us up.
Quick game of zombies on Call of Duty maybe as well.
Yeah.
Nice. Awesome. Well, we are over an hour, and we do have a main topic for the month. But as we alluded to earlier, it sort of ties in with Dead Space, because I think both of us had the experience of finding it possibly too hard and maybe frustrating. We thought we'd just quickly talk about gaming difficulty, and this does seem to come up quite often, whether it's the Souls-like type games with people asking them to put in difficulty options, partly for accessibility, that sort of thing. But I thought it was worth us talking about, what we usually play on, what sort of difficulty we usually play on. If we find challenge fun, anything we found too hard, too easy, that sort of stuff. So you mentioned, your Dead Space experience. I think you mentioned something else as well, didn't you? Another game earlier.
Yeah, it feels like this topic's going to end on a really positive message, like our previous topic, where we ended it with saying there's no such thing as bad games. Everyone likes different games, so just enjoy what you enjoy doing. So I think it's going to be a similar message at the end of this one, just looking forward. However, yes, Dead Space we both found quite hard, and I expressed my masculinity by dropping it down to easy difficulty so I could enjoy it. I didn't feel the urge to crack on with getting murdered time and time again for hours on end. I like to see where games go. Obviously, developers have put a lot of effort into games, and it's nice to see where they go to. Plague Requiem, like I said, was a perfect difficulty level on normal because it was difficult, it was challenging, you had to redo some bits over and over again, but it always felt achievable. And I think the prime difficulty level for me is where it feels achievable but challenging. It's a perfect balance between the two. And that varies by game. So some games normal is too difficult, some games normal is far too easy. So you've really got to give it a go and then adjust it to see what you feel the urge to do. And like most things, it all depends on mood, how much time you've got available, what other things you've got on the pipeline. Like if you're chucking 20 hours repeating the same thing in Dead Space and you're missing out on playing lots of other games and you're missing seeing where Dead Space actually goes. So I didn't feel bad at all by dropping to easy for a little while just to make some progress. And I think I think you were tempted to do the same, weren't you? But I'm not sure if you actually went to easy. I think you soldiered on, didn't you?
I soldiered on, although it was really like I was probably one death away from dropping it down. I had a few moments where I think I'd probably made some poor choices in terms of my my inventory or sort of burning through things that I needed later on. But also I think not very good, if I'm entirely honest. But yeah, I haven't yet had to, but it was an interesting. You said you had no hesitation in dropping down to easy. I think that's a very good position to be at, because I think I probably should have given up sooner and taken the drop. But was there no part of you that was like, "Oh, I want to get through this"? Where do you find that balance? You said you wanted that challenge.
So I think when you take time away from something, it's good as well. So if you got really stuck on a particular battle sequence and there's no recent save point, it's just really, really annoying you, just go and play Fortnite for a while, or go and play Kitten Simulator or something else, just to get your mind off it. Come back the next day, because sometimes, have a conversation, touch some grass, as Joshua likes to say. So sometimes when you come back the next day, your competence level is rapidly increased, bizarrely, because you're in a better mood, you've got less tired fingers, you've eaten better, you've had a Red Bull, who knows? But some days, having a break and come back, you can actually continue on the same difficulty level. But when you come back the next day and you still can't complete the stupid area, then you might as well just drop down to a lower difficulty setting for the rest of the evening and just have a go. So yeah, I had a bit of a debate. I probably tried about 10 times the same scene. Couldn't get past it. Was getting no enjoyment out of it. And it was either giving up on the game completely, but being I was being contractually forced to play at least 4 hours, I thought, I need to drop down to easy here, otherwise I'm going to not enjoy it at all. And I was glad I did. So no regrets, don't look back in anger, all that stuff, yeah.
Very, very wise. Yes, I was stubbornly soldiering on, but I've definitely dropped down to easy difficulty on other games, and I think specifically when it's story driven. I think for me the sort of satisfaction is to see what's happening next. So yes, it's it can be. You want the challenge, you want some kind of challenge, I think, in most games. If you're just kind of blazing your way through, there's maybe it sort of stops being engaging. But ultimately, yeah, if it's story based, you wanna see what happens. And we talked about how many great games there are, especially with the subscription services. There's plenty of other things you could be doing with those hours rather than, advancing one room and blowing yourself up.
Yeah, and also like the Plague Tale Requiem, a lot of it is about avoiding rats and destroying rats and lighting torches so that rats don't come near you. So if it did become too difficult, which it didn't because I'm really good at it, I'm just that good, then yeah, there's no point in just continually failing to destroy rats that you've already destroyed 1,000 times. You don't get any life bonuses. You're not going to put it on your tombstone that, yes, I destroyed those particular rats after destroying all those other rats. Unless I have a really tedious the rest of my life, in which case I'll make sure that goes exactly on my tombstone. Make a note of that, Giles, just in case. So yeah, if it's getting a bit samey, you're not getting anything new out of it, then like you said, in a story-driven game like that, then you want to see what's going to come next, because that's half the point of playing the game, is to see where it goes rather than just getting stuck and getting grumpy. Interestingly though, I read an article the other day about difficulty levels over the passage of time. So I think in the 90s and 80s, games were quite hard. And looking back, I can't remember many games on my Spectrum or even Amiga that I actually finished. Whereas these days, on the PC and Xbox and PlayStation, I finished most of the games I play. So something must have changed. I can't imagine I've got much better at them over the last 30 years because I'm old, fat, and my fingers are sausagey. But maybe it's that these days, with the different options for difficulty settings, that's definitely an improvement because you can pick the one that suits you. And I think in the old days, you used to play a game that you paid lots of money for. There probably wasn't another game coming out similarly for another few weeks/months. So you just had to keep going and going and going. And some of the games in the Spectrum and Amiga games were incredibly frustrating because you just kept dying and kept dying, but there was no other games to play. So you just kept dying until you stopped dying. So in the end, you got good at it, which I guess is a good life lesson. But these days, I prefer to have difficulty settings so you don't get quite so stuck. So interestingly, for the games of the month, for this month, it'll be interesting to see how difficult Chaos Engine is compared to Call of Duty Black Ops, if on the normal difficulty setting. And whether you can adjust the Chaos Engine to have a different difficulty, because I've got a feeling Chaos Engine is going to be really hard, and I get the feeling Call of Duty is probably going to be fine. So that'll be fascinating as well.
Yeah, it's a good point. I definitely remember playing the same level over and over again, and I think quite a few of those games weren't actually that long. You just
Yeah.
you just played the same bit forever. And as a kid, maybe you didn't really notice, but as an adult, going back to some of these games, you're like, oh wow, there were kind of five worlds in this thing, and I probably never saw the third one. Um, so yeah, I'm really looking forward to playing some older stuff. I think outside of story, I remember a friend of both of us, John Braid, I used to live with. I'd come home from work at lunchtime. Sometimes we were very close to the office, and he'd be playing FIFA, probably like 98 or something back then. No, hang on, I owe something, and yeah, he'd be winning like 12-1, something like that. Just, cruising through, scoring these amazing goals. And I could never get it. And John, if you're listening, he has listened to some of our episodes. So hey, I hope you now can take the win, because I completely understand it now. There's me, like challenging my way through, like scraping a kind of 1-1, or usually just getting battered by someone who was much better, getting increasingly stressed or increasingly like agitated during a lunch break of work. Surely what you want to do is relax. And John had found, I think, the perfect version of that for him. I mean, I personally, I still like a bit more of a challenge, but I definitely didn't enjoy getting walloped every game. So yeah, maybe there's some sense in that. If you're trying to get some enjoyment out of this hobby that we do, then make sure you're enjoying yourself.
It's interesting you mentioned FIFA because every year with FIFA slash EA FC 20 something, I go on career mode where you create your own player and work your way up through the ranks. And I always find it ridiculously easy, annoyingly. So whatever difficulty level I'm on, it never provides much challenge at all. So within a few seasons, you've got all the way to the top and you've scored the winning goal for England. It's not that challenging. So that annoys me. I'd like the career mode in FIFA slash EA Sports 24, EA Football 24, EA FC 24. Blimey, keep up, James. Please. To be more difficult. So weirdly, some games are too difficult and some games, especially sports games, sometimes are quite easy, I find. But it might just be because I'm good at sports games and awful at everything else, but who knows? So I mentioned earlier about Fortnite as well. So I play Fortnite for enjoyment, but I do like to do okay at it. Doesn't create a lot of enjoyment if you go into a ranked battle and within the first 5 seconds someone just headshotted you and that's the end of it. And you're like, that wasn't very exciting at all. So there's no obviously way of setting a difficulty level in Fortnite, but it kind of works it out for you. So that's another approach to gaming, isn't it? So in Fortnite you can improve in the ranks by doing well in the ranked battle matches. So you gradually progress up through bronze, silver, gold, and then there's epic and ridiculous and knob or whatever the other levels are. So you only play against people who are similar levels to you, and it resets itself every season. So when a new season starts, you're all back at the bottom of bronze and you work your way back up again. So after a few weeks of each season, you generally will play against people who are at a similar level, which is quite nice. But again, you can tell that some people just play it 24/7, do nothing else with their lives. Awful people who just come and hit you on the back of the head and you get no enjoyment out of it at all. So again, 3 types of difficulty. Sports, far too easy. Some of the adventure games, especially those involving spaceships and with Japanese names, far too hard. And then Fortnite, it's a balance because you can sort of rank yourself against other people. And last one, because I mentioned we played a bit of Switch on our trip to Ringwood, and we played Sonic 2. And weirdly, I remember Sonic 2, or all the Sonics, not being that hard in the olden days. I thought, but maybe I just didn't play them much because I never had a Mega Drive. But this is really hard. And Joshua is really good at games and spends a decent chunk of time being good at everything. Is awful at it. So I don't know what happened there. It's a very basic side-scroller, Sonic, as you know. It's a bit more involved because you go through tubes and stuff. It's really hard. So me, Sarah and Joshua all played it. And none of us could get past like level 5. And there's like miles to go. We just couldn't get past it at all. It's too hard. We just kept drowning. Bizarre. So I don't know if it's because of the awful Switch control system. It's different than the old Mega Drive system. Or whether the game is just really hard and we're really bad at it. And young people have got used to playing games that are easier these days. Who knows? But that really annoyed me because we just couldn't get past this level.
There we go. Well, yeah, you mentioned online, or you mentioned Fortnite. That is a whole world of games that I've sort of avoided, and mostly I used to play a bit more, but mostly that was because I was just terrible in comparison. So the idea of having sort of skill-based matchmaking of some kind is that would actually encourage me to play rather than just going in and getting my bum handed to me on a regular basis by some screaming American teenager. Hi to any American teenagers listening. We really value your attention. Thank you very much. Awesome, thank you, James. So we're saying generally, as you kind of trailed, some kind of hot take that play however you want to. That's what we're saying.
Yeah, like I said before, gaming's all about enjoying things, isn't it? There's no point in playing a game and hating every second of it and persevering for no good reason, apart from talking about it on the podcast. So you've got to get some enjoyment out of it. So therefore, play on whatever difficulty level you find enjoyable. Give it a go. If you want to drop it, great. If you want to put up to make it more difficult, great. That's the whole point of the difficulty level settings. So just do you. I always wonder in those like how long to beat type websites where it says the game takes 8 hours, whether people put it on baby level or something, that's why it takes 8 hours, and we're playing on grown up level, and that's why it takes us like 3 or 4 times as long as it should do. So I'm sure it's not because we're awful at it. It's probably just because everyone else is cheating, like Joshua always says. Or they're on really easy level. Who knows?
Let's end on that positive thought, James. I think probably we might be kidding ourselves, but sometimes delusion is a nice place to live, isn't it? Excellent. Well, that is the show. As you mentioned, sometimes things are worth persevering with. I hope, listeners, that you've borne with us, bared.
Bored.
You're bored with us come 82 minutes. No, hopefully you've stuck with us through the show. Hopefully, really keen to hear what you have to say, what you think about gaming difficulty. I know, for example, we've got a few listeners, Scotty is one, who very much like the Soulsborne type games, which I always find more frustrating than fun. So I'd still like to hear what everyone has to say about difficulty, about our game of the month with Dead Space, if you played the original or the remake. Want to get your thoughts on Black Ops over the next month, please do message in through our channels, through our website, through our email address, and also if you do have access to the Ant stream or an Amiga knocking around the house, Chaos Engine, because that's a really nice little juxtaposition of those two games for this month. So that's the show. Please remember to like and subscribe. Give us a 5-star review to help us push up the searches. We'd appreciate your follows, interactions, like I mentioned, usual socials, and at gmail.com. I'm Giles Nicholson. Giles went west on most things. And how about you, James?
Yeah, how about me? I'll be spending the rest of the evening going around the streets trying to get some sweets/candy in my costume. Although it's not a costume, it's my normal Boy George type attire. And also, I'll be spending the rest of half term trying to learn the new language involving Skibbity and Sigma and Riz and all the other words that Joshua has been using this week more annoyingly than ever. So maybe in the next episode, if you want to write in with your definitions of what those awesome words means, then please do. Apart from that, back to work tomorrow, starting work at 6 a.m, so that's why we're recording a little bit earlier tonight after a nice Halloween spectacular, and getting back to getting my arse handed to me on Fortnite. Looking forward to the live event tomorrow night, 10:30 for those listeners listening on day one. And yeah, it's going to be a lovely month of November as we rock towards Christmas.
Yeah, we'll see you first Friday of December for more Aches and Games. Cheers.
See you later.